It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Hello, all you golf nerds. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, aka The Guru, where it is my mission to tease out the habits, life lessons, and self-development ideas from the best in the teaching and coaching world. I hope that you will find this information on this show applicable to all occupations and fields of study. I'm so grateful to all the outstanding guests that I've had on this show thus far and their willingness to share their knowledge and expertise. But most of all, thank you for listening, thank you for sharing and supporting the podcast. On this episode, my guest is former LPGA Tour star Leta Lindley. Leta played college golf at the University of Arizona and was on the same team as Hall of Famer Annika Sorenstam. Leta had an incredible 18-year career on the LPGA Tour. She is the proud mother of two beautiful kids, Cole and Reese, which she considers her greatest achievements. Leta has so many highlights in her playing career, but the best is in 2008 when she beat Zhang Zhang in a one-hole playoff to capture the Corning Classic title. All of this from a young lady that describes herself as an underdog because she was never the longest hitter. I think looking through her stats, her average driving distance on tour was in the mid 230, 235 to 237. So she had to make up for it with an incredible short game, putting, hard work, perseverance, and determination, which definitely comes through in this conversation. You'll figure out soon why Leta, as she calls herself the little golfer that could, was so successful, as she is one of the most positive and inspiring people that I've ever talked with. And now she is sharing that with her students at Old Marsh Club as she embarks on her second career as a golf instructor. There are so many lessons to be learned from this conversation, from a player's perspective to how to just be a better human being in general from this incredible young woman. I had such a great time talking to her that even after we stopped recording, we had just an unbelievable conversation, which is probably going to lead into phase 2 of our podcast. So I'm definitely going to have her back on as she starts to learn more about teaching and transitioning from being a player to a teacher. I think was a really interesting conversation. So without further delay, I'm excited to bring you this wide-ranging, inspirational, and informational conversation with Mrs. Leta Lindley. Enjoy. Leta, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to talk to you as we have a mutual friend in John Bierkin that connected us, and doing some research on your career. You had a phenomenal 18-year career on the LPGA Tour, and I know you've got a great message, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking. And now embarking on your second career, which is golf instruction, as we'll get into here later in the conversation. But let's start with your childhood, because I think it's always interesting to see how high performers and athletes at all levels, how they grew up and sort of their influences. So what were you like as a kid? Did you play other sports, or tell me a little bit about your growing up?
I did not play other sports. My father first tried to introduce me to golf when I was about 7. The story goes that he took my mother and I to a schoolyard to hit some golf balls, and my mom hit the golf ball better than I did, and I didn't like it, so I didn't want to play. So clearly I was very competitive from a young age. My father tried to reintroduce me at the age of 9, and I don't know if it was golf that I loved so much as it was just spending time with my dad. So from the age of 9, I was hooked, and I was going to the golf course every single day after school with him and on weekends. And I played in my first golf tournament when I was about 10 years old. And I distinctly remember driving down the freeway headed towards Balboa Park in San Diego, asking my dad, begging him to turn around because I thought I was going to be sick.
Oh.
And I didn't want to play. And I did play. I played the tournament, and I finished in third place. There might have only been 3 girls. But the third place boys finisher got a trophy, and the third place girls finisher, which was me, did not get a trophy.
Oh, how about that upset you?
It did. It really upset me. So that was sort of my taste of I want a trophy. So from then on, I was hooked, and I wasn't begging my dad to turn around on the freeway when we would go to golf tournaments. I wanted to get my trophy. So I sort of continued on from there. And I don't think I wasn't a stellar junior player. I don't know that anybody looked at me and said, oh my goodness, there's a prodigy. But I did work hard, and I enjoyed being at the golf course with my dad. And I think over time it sort of just blossomed into a love of the game, and I was having some success, and I enjoyed that and just kind of continued along.
When did you first figure out or maybe had that sort of ignition moment that you thought I might be able to play in college? Was it a moment, like was it a tournament, or was it just sort of a steady progression that you were just getting better, your scores were getting better?
It was definitely a steady progression. I was having success at every level. I was playing. I'm a product of the San Diego Junior Golf Association. I was having success at every level, 10 and under, Division 11 and 12. I was lucky enough that the Junior World Tournament was right there at Torrey Pines, or in San Diego. We played at different golf courses. Mm-hmm. So I was able to play in this international event, right in my own backyard. I had some success there. I won the championship, I believe, when I was about 12 years old, and had some other nice finishes. So just seeing that success at every step of the way. And then somewhere, I'm sure my dad planted the seed that, you could play in college and you could get a college scholarship.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay, sure. So, you just continue on. And then I did, when I was older, start to play in AJGA events and be recognized on a national level. And then colleges started contacting me, and I became interested in playing college golf as a way of paying for my education.
Right. So you played at Arizona. Did you have any other offers, or was that just a good fit for you?
Yeah, I did go. I had scheduled 5 recruiting trips. I was being recruited by Furman, by Duke, by USC, Arizona, BYU. And Arizona ended up being my 3rd recruiting trip, and I just fell in love with it that I canceled my last couple.
Yeah, a little closer to home too, right? That's a lot of East Coast schools there. That would have been a big jump.
Yeah, it was just far enough away, 6 hours by car or an hour by plane ride, and so just close enough to get home when I needed to. So it was really a great experience, and I enjoyed it very much.
So it sounds like your dad was such a great influence on you early on. Do you have any stories or maybe some instances of where he sort of pushed you? Or, obviously, I think we hear that story a lot, is the kids want to spend time with their parents, right? So it kind of gets them into the game. Do you have anything you could share? For the junior golf parents out there, what made him so good as a parent and as a junior golf parent?
He was so creative in finding opportunities for me to play golf. We were not members of a country club. He would take me to the schoolyard with a shag bag to hit balls. Sometimes I even took my lessons there with a local pro. He took a job at one point on weekends to marshal at a local municipal golf course so I could hit golf balls. We would go down there was a golf course that had been abandoned, and we would go down into one of the old fairways, and we'd put down our shag bag of balls. I'd hit to one end of the fairway. We'd go pick them up, hit back to the other end, and then go up to the car. We even got caught sneaking out to El Camino Country Club one time to try and play like the last 4 holes. I'll never forget the pro coming up and saying, "Mr. Lindley, if you want Leta to play golf, it's okay, just call the shop and we'll figure something out.
Oh,
So, I mean, it was really, he just was really creative about, trying to provide opportunity on a limited budget for me. And I appreciate that so much now as a parent of 2 children, and the sacrifices that he made to help me be successful. I was also very lucky that at the time when I grew up in San Diego, the entry fees to junior tournaments were only $1.
wow.
And I would get to play some of the best golf courses in the county, San Diego Country Club, La Jolla Country Club, Torrey Pines. The list goes on. And with my $1, I also got a hot dog, a bag of chips, and a soda.
Oh, that's
so
great.
you got a lot for your $1 back then.
Absolutely.
My dad ran the North County Junior Golf Association for a period of time, and the entry fee was $2 for the North County Junior Golf Association. And then playing some tournaments, we traveled to Los Angeles. The entry fees were a little bit more pricey, maybe more like $20. And then he would travel and take me into the desert in Palm Springs to play those events. So I was certainly exposed to a lot of great golf courses, as well as some really great junior players. I grew up playing against Brandy Burton, who was a few years ahead of me and played on tour for many years. And
Yeah, she was great.
she was great. She's a really big hitter, which I am not.
We're going to get into that.
Learning to compete against people who were athletically more talented than I was, that hit the ball farther, but finding a way sort of to compete.
Yeah, that's the thing that really jumped out at me. We'll get into your professional career here, obviously, but you describe yourself as an underdog, because of those, maybe not hitting it as far, or obviously the modern game is changing a lot, even on the LPGA Tour. Did that start at an early age, or did that come about more when you started getting into competitive golf and on the tour? Was there something that you sort of noticed when you were playing junior golf that you said, wow, I'm not hitting it as far as the other kids, I need to work harder in other parts of my game? Or, what do you think about that?
Well, people would always be so amazed that I hit it so short on tour and could compete. And I said, well, I've always hit it short. I've always been the shortest hitter.
Right.
So this was something I grew up, Brandy always hit it, 20, 30 yards by me. So this wasn't something new when I got out on tour. I sort of grew up being the shortest hitter. I'm not very strong. I don't consider myself super athletic. Well, I do have good eye-hand coordination. I just, I worked hard. I learned how to play the game. So I don't know that's just how it was. And so
right. Just normal
I did
for
it.
you.
It's just normal. That's
Yeah.
just how I grew up. Nothing motivated me more than probably somebody telling me that I couldn't do something or that I wouldn't be successful. So I kind of say I'm like the little golfer that could,
Right.
Every step along the way, somebody would say, oh, well, she's not good enough to play college golf. Then I got a college scholarship. Oh, well, she's never going to win a college tournament. Well, I won a few. She's never going to make it out on tour. Well, I got my card. Well, she's never going to stay out on tour.
Right.
And then my 1 year turned into 18 years.
It's
and
amazing.
Then, eventually going on to win one LPGA tournament. So
Right.
for me, there's always been that motivation of somebody saying that I can't. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to prove them wrong.
Was there an instance?
A great motivator.
Yeah. Was there an instance or like an example you can give us of a time where somebody really, really fired you up?
I don't know if there was like one particular instance, but it was always that, I just wasn't maybe quite as good as everybody else. And so, just trying to chase it and get better and better and better. And, maybe I heard mumblings.
Yeah,
my swing was never as good as everybody else's. I've had a variety of swings, none of them that I would teach at this point in my career. But, I think probably the most important lesson I learned along the way was you can have success with that. It
Right.
didn't have to be perfect. that the game is getting the golf ball in the hole, and I was able to do that. But one particular instance doesn't really jump out at me. It was just sort of this theme
right.
in my junior golf career.
Well, it sounds like junior players and junior parents haven't changed over the years. They still talk about other kids and, you know, how does that young lady beat my young lady? Her swing isn't as good as mine, right? I mean, we hear that all the time. I've got a junior golfer in my house right now too, so I understand that that happens.
Well, sure. I've frustrated many a competitor, probably many a parent. Yeah. I'll be the first to say that even on tour looking around, that there were women that were way more talented than I was, but there's so much more that goes into it, into being successful. And, you know, what was that missing piece? What made me more successful when I can clearly see that somebody is a better ball striker than I am, you know, hits it further than I do. You know, why did I have the career that I did, and maybe they weren't able to stay out there as long? So, you know, there's a lot that goes into the game. If it was just about length, then I never would have had the career that I did. But that's what I love so much about golf, is there's so much more to it than how far you hit it. You know, there's finesse, there's chipping, there's putting, there's the mental side of the game, there's the heart and the desire, you know, to push through, you know, when things aren't going well. When you're struggling, when you've missed 10 cuts in a row, or, you know, you aren't winning those tournaments, you know, how do you persevere through that? So there's so much more to golf, and that's what makes golf so beautiful and why I love this sport so much. There's just so much to it.
Did you have some influences coming up? Did you have a swing coach, or like where did you develop that? Because, I mean, we're all, as coaches, trying to instill that in our junior players or our college players. Or is that something that you just sort of picked up along the way? Was it your father? I mean, who were your influences? This was probably my third golf coach. His name was Lud Keene. He owned Center City Golf Course in Oceanside, California, which was lovingly nicknamed Goat Hill. And okay.
it has since been rebirthed through John Ashworth and some other people in Oceanside. But when I was younger, Lud owned this golf course, and my dad became friends with him, and he became my instructor. He let me come up, hit golf balls for free, and he taught me. And that was really the most important lesson he ever taught me. After every lesson, he would say, you can play with that. You can have success with that swing.
The confidence that he instilled.
The confidence he instilled with me, that it didn't have to be perfect, that it was good enough to be successful. And what's so funny, and people are shocked, he never saw me play a round of golf until I was a professional.
Oh, wow.
Never saw me play. But he really taught me to kind of diagnose when things went wrong in my swing, why was that happening, so I could sort of fix myself as I went along.
Right.
But I was really, developed into more of a feel player. But the most important lesson he taught me was you can have success with that. And I really became, through him and my dad, this glass is full, half full attitude. Really turning everything into a positive, even the negatives. I really think it was from his influence and the words that he spoke over me during our time together. And he was my pro until he passed away in, I guess, 2005, right after my son was born. So we were together for a really long time. He was like a second father to me. My father passed away when I was 20, so he sort of kind of filled that role, and I would always come back home from being on the road and, to find that confidence and just try and get me back on track. So he was an amazing man, and how much he loved juniors and poured into them, and, what he did for me personally, just not in golf, but in my life, and really helped shape the person that I am and the way that I see things in my life.
That's incredible. There's so many coaches around that don't get the recognition like that guy. I mean, he was amazing, but you bring up so many good points there. that we need to develop as coaches, and I know you're sharing with your students now, is that confidence and telling them that, building up the belief system, I think is sometimes difficult with young players.
It is. I think it's a challenge, and I really, how many of my students are going to go on and play at a really elite level and be an LPGA or a PGA Tour player. So I really see it as it's so much more that I'm helping to raise or influence young adults to become great people.
It's life skills.
There's our life skills,
Yep.
And to be kind to yourself. And, we're so quick to berate ourselves and put ourselves down. And so one of the dads of one of my juniors, he says, you're really a life coach, kind of disguised as a golf coach.
It's a huge
or
compliment.
A golf teacher.
Yep.
It is a huge compliment because I really see myself as someone who's helping to raise good people.
Absolutely.
And if I can teach them to be kind to themselves and be kind to one another and just to be good people and teach them these life skills, then I feel that I've been successful.
100%. So take us back, before we get into your professional career, take us back to your college days and what you learned and how you sort of developed in the college years, because you played with some amazing players as well, right? I mean, wasn't Hall of Famer on your team?
Just a little Hall of Famer by the name of Annika Sorenstam.
That's what I thought.
On my team.
Yeah.
We came in together as freshmen. It's so interesting because, I'm hoping that I'm getting this right, but I do believe my coach told me at the time that when Annika came to Arizona, I don't believe she had broken 76 yet.
Wow. Okay.
And so it's interesting to say I knew her when.
Yeah.
And she did end up winning, I believe, the first college tournament she played at the University of Washington, if my memory serves me correct. But, she played in the first event. I did not qualify for the first event. So I was sort of like right there on that fifth, sixth man coming in as a freshman. So really, trying to develop and fight for my spot on the team. But by my sophomore year, we were ranked number 1 in the country. And I played with some amazing women that taught me a lot. But Annika was a very hard worker. I don't think that that's a surprise to anybody.
Right.
She's always been interested, even from the beginning, in stats. And she just sort of blossomed, when she was at Arizona and, went on to win so many tournaments. And, I only got to play with her for 2 years before she went on to turn pro. And even then she was only conditional. She had conditional status her rookie year on tour. But obviously learned a lot in that year and went on to be the amazing player that she is even today.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys had some nice practice sessions and some competitions that I'm sure helped both of you get better.
We did, for sure. Definitely for me. I mean, I was sort of a little fish in a big pond and, really trying to fight for my spot. And it really pushed me. Those girls pushed me to be better. And I wanted to travel. It was important to me. So, I worked hard and put in the time, as did everybody. So we sort of pushed each other. And, you could see we were ranked number 1 for a really long period of time. Sadly, we ended up not winning the national championship my sophomore year, which, it still hurts to this day. I really wanted to win for our coach. But those girls, just their work ethic and whatnot, really helped teach me a lot along the way. So
when did you figure out that, hey, I may want to try to take it to the next level? Because obviously you were ready. You made it on tour your first attempt at Q school, which is probably unheard of for a lot of kids nowadays. It's so difficult to get out there. Was there a moment, or was there a conversation that you had with your coach or your family that said, hey, I think I can do this? Well,
it's an interesting time for me because I lost my dad my sophomore year.
Okay. Yeah,
and that was really tough because he was so tied to my golf. So at that point, I didn't even know if I could play golf beyond
Right.
without having my dad there. So there was a period of time in there where I was sort of just hanging on. And but at that point, I had met my husband my freshman year, and we were dating my sophomore year. And so he kind of sort of filled that role of encouraging me and being that voice of confidence for me. So by the time I got through my college career and getting ready to graduate, it took me 4.5 years to get my degree. So when I tried to qualify for the tour, I was still in school. And I do distinctly remember having this sort of dream nightmare, however you want to look at it, that I was sitting behind a desk at a computer. I don't know that I really want to do that. I don't think that that's me.
Right.
So, it just seemed like a natural progression, just sort of like my whole career. You play, you just keep going along and seeing if it's going to work out for you. So I said, well, I've come this far. I've worked hard. It just seems like, well, I should give it a shot, because I didn't know what else I was going to do. And clearly I didn't want to sit behind a desk with a computer. So Matt and I went off. I signed up for Q school. When my dad had passed away, he left me $5,000 cash in a golf book.
Oh, my.
And he had told me, if something ever happens to me, here's this money for you for your golf. So I used that money.
Oh, that's awesome.
My mom knew about it. I used that money to pay for my entry fee to go to Q school. And Matt caddied for me. We were both still in school, flew out to Florida, which might as well have been on, that's so far away from the West Coast. And here we are, 2 kids trying to qualify. We made it through first stage. So then we went home, go back to school, keep practicing, go back to final stage in Daytona. Matt goes with me. We almost didn't get any status. I ended up having to birdie my last couple holes coming in to earn conditional status. And I still remember standing in the middle of the fairway on our last hole. By then I'm exhausted. I'm emotionally drained, physically drained. Matt gives me the number. And, we're picking a club. And I'm like, I don't think I've got anything left to get it there. So we go up a club. Somehow I put a swing on it, and I end up hitting it to a foot.
Oh, my gosh.
To make it to birdie, to earn 21st conditional status.
Wow.
So I don't even have exempt status. I have this status for the next year that I don't even know what I'm going to get in, if I'm going to get in anything. So that's sort of how I started my career, with $5,000 in a golf book, and bunting it up there on the last hole to get conditional status on the LPGA Tour.
That's incredible. What a great story. So how many tournaments did you end up getting into that first time? Because you obviously had to take advantage of your opportunities when you did get to play.
I did. So now, if you're conditional status now, you're not going to get into very much. Thankfully,
right.
When I was my rookie year, I ended up playing in 20 or 21 events, which back then we had like 45 events. The schedule was very full, consecutive weeks. Top players they need to take a week off, so that gave opportunity to gals like me.
Right.
So I ended up playing in quite a number of events, but you're exactly right. I mean, for me, every tournament felt like the U.S. Open, because I didn't know when I was going to play next. So every tournament was important. The very first one that I went to was in Hawaii. And I don't know that I originally thought I was going to go, because, the flights to Hawaii are expensive. The hotel in Hawaii is expensive.
Right. You got to play well just to cover that, right?
You have to play well. I didn't have a lot of money. So we went to Hawaii not knowing if we were going to have any funds left. The tournament was sponsored by Cup of Noodles back then. And so my poor husband, at the time, fiance, I made him eat Cup of Noodles the whole week because it was free.
Oh, nice.
And we went to every party, every Pro-Am party, because
so
the food
eat.
is free, so we could eat.
Yeah.
And so we played, and I ended up finishing 20th in my very first LPGA event, and that earned me $5,000.
Wow.
So I started with $5,000, the money my dad gave me in the golf book, I earned $5,000 in my very first event, and we self-funded ourselves. I never borrowed any money from anybody.
Wow.
We were able to start on our own and just kind of went along like, tournament to tournament, and, I'd make a little bit of money. There would be opportunities to play in pro-ams where I could make some money to help pay for the week. But we were self-funded.
Well, there's no wonder why you were hungry, right? I mean, you had to be little different from some of the kids that get out there now that have all these sponsors, and they're making so much money nowadays. That is that's a great story. That's incredible. But it speaks to why you're so good for so long, because it probably even when you got established, I'm sure you still had that same mentality of like, I gotta go play well today.
Absolutely. You just never know. And I always felt like, it only takes one good week. It only takes one good week to make a year. Yep. So you're just grinding away, just hoping for that one good week. But, I've always enjoyed that sort of working hard and seeing it pay off, whether it's with one shot, whether it's making that one putt under pressure, hitting a certain shot under pressure. So celebrating those small successes along the way, hoping it's going to lead to a bigger success. But really for me along this journey, I just enjoyed being able to answer to myself and not having to answer to somebody else that I possibly owed money to. Somebody funded me, gave me $30,000. Well, now I'm having to answer to them. And that just is so much more pressure, and something that I knew that I didn't want to do. I just wanted to, answering to myself is hard enough. I didn't want to have to answer to somebody else. And thankfully it worked out that way for me. That's not always the case with everybody, but perhaps it made me hungry enough so that I didn't have to borrow money from anybody, and sort of spurred me on in my career. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I teach a lot of mini tour guys and girls that are giving it a go, and, when they're having to, even for their families, a lot of times it's families putting up the money. I mean, that's so much pressure aside from the golf stuff. I mean, absolutely. What are some of your go-tos because this is a question we get a lot as coaches, to handle the pressure, whether it's an important shot like you're hitting on the last hole, or something maybe you do in practice. I mean, what would you say, and I'm sure you're giving that information now to your students, is like, how do you handle the pressure? I mean, what is there something you tell yourself? Is it a tactic, or is it just innate? I do a lot of different things. So I think everybody's nervous. I say, Tiger's nervous, Phil's nervous, Annika's nervous. I think you have to play games with yourself and trick yourself and put yourself in some place that you're more comfortable. Pretend that you're there, whether, it's playing 18 holes, with $5 on the line with the people at home. I do this all the time. I do this all the time at home. It's just like when I'm playing against those girls. So I sort of try and put myself in a situation that's more comfortable. I believe in taking deep breaths, to sort of slow down. Important. Breathing. We forget to breathe. Right. So taking that big yoga breath, which will bring down the heart rate. I really prepare for competitiveness, for a competitive experience or a tournament round in my practice. So, whether I really say that there needs to be something on the line when you go to play. You can't just nonchalantly go out and shoot the 65. That's great. That's easy. You have to do it when there's something on the line. So whether it's $5, $20, whatever it is, really when I played my best golf my last 6 years, I was playing with a group of women here in Palm Beach that are low handicappers. They were playing from more forward tees. I'm playing from the blues, having to give them strokes. And we'd be playing golf, and I'm like, I've got to golf my ball to hang on to my money. Right. I mean, they were so good, and that just preparing that way really it made seem like going out on tour was much easier. I was always putting myself under pressure in practice, and then even when I'm just practicing on the range or chipping and putting, I play games. My husband and I play this one game. It's the up and down game with my short game. You get one chance. Here's one ball. He drops it, gives me the lie. He points to the hole. I've got to figure out, I got to get this ball up and down. Chip it, one putt. And that's how I would end my day when I was on with every practice session on tour, playing the up and down game, trying to mimic.
Yeah, what was a good score there? Was there a goal involved? I mean, I think that's fantastic. That's something we do with our kids all the time. But how did you apply the pressure, or was it something your husband would tell you, or?
Well, I think we would do 20 shots, and of course I want to get all 20 up and down.
Right, you're just
I don't know that I
competitive.
I don't know that I necessarily had a specific number, but
Gotcha.
really making sure that I walked away feeling good, that I had put in the reps, I had put in that time. I got 80% of them up and down, and then we could leave the golf course feeling good about the work and the preparation that we put in for the next day.
Yeah, that's great advice, especially for the tournament players and the kids out there. I think trying to simulate pressure in tournaments is difficult, right? I mean, but you've got to try to make your practice as hard or if not harder than what you're going to find when you go play in a tournament. I think that's really, really good.
Well, and then even putting games too, different putting games.
Yeah,
I would play with Jill McGill all the time. We'd be putting, and we would play the golf version of horse. From like 15 feet and in, where, if she makes it, I got to make it right on top of her, or I'm going to get the letter H.
I like it.
And we would just go around. And so when I'm out on and I would top her. And so I'm putting in these great memories into my memory bank about, under that pressure, Jill made the putt. I made it on top of her. So when I go out on the golf course, I'm like, just like against Jill, Jill. So I put myself in a different situation. It isn't that this putt is worth $10,000 or this putt is to win a tournament. It's just like you do against Jill.
That's awesome.
So that's how we would play.
Yeah, that's great. So you and your husband get married, and he's been your caddy for, what did you say, every year but one, right? I mean, what was there?
Every year but one.
And you guys have two beautiful kids. They're now, 14 and 12? Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, Cole and Reese. Yeah, so the cool thing is it looks like, just doing the math here, that when you won in 2008, they were little, obviously, but they got to see you play, right?
They did. They were there on the 18th green after Matt and I won. I played my best golf after having two children.
That was going to be my question. Was that how did you balance, now being a parent and having to play and travel, and obviously you can share, the influence that your husband's had. He has to be an amazing guy to sort of juggle all that with you. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, like I said, I played my best golf after having kids. I won my one and only tournament after having two kids. And I think that really comes from, it was because of the perspective. That now all of a sudden I'm not living and dying by my golf ball. It's not so important. It doesn't define me. My score does not define who I am. I am now somebody's mother, and I can see just how rich that is and how much more meaningful that is. So it was sort of freeing for me to sort of just let it go and just play, and whatever happens, happens. So they gave me perspective. And the other side of that is I had less time,
Sure.
a lot less time to practice.
Yeah, so but you better make the most of it, right?
I practiced with purpose.
There you go.
So if I only had an hour, which is sometimes I didn't even get that much, if I could only hit 10 golf balls, I was going to be very present, and they were going to be the 10 best shots I could possibly hit in that moment. So I became very purposeful with everything that I had to do because my time was so limited. The kids were only allowed to stay in daycare for a certain amount of time. We did not travel with a nanny. Matt was caddy, husband, nanny, sports psychologist, you name it. I mean, he was wearing the hat. And I honestly say that I would not have the career that I had if it had not been for Matt. And
gotta have that support team, right?
you have to have that support team. And when I look at why I was so successful, he is a huge part of that, because it's very lonely out there. And you're riding this emotional roller coaster, and to have your support team right there with you all the time, I just think made a big difference for me. And I give Matt a lot of credit, because he had to put a lot of things off to the side to support me. Sort of check his ego at the door. We don't share the same last name, but sometimes people think that Lindley is my married name, but it's actually my maiden name.
Right.
So, they'll refer to my husband as Mr. Lindley. And that's happened all the time. And, even when we were dating, there would be snide comments about, oh, next time I'm going to take your girlfriend on the trip and not you, or, this and that. So, for a lot of it, Matt's really had to learn to kind of just let that stuff go. And, he early on decided what he saw for our marriage. And it really wasn't him being, someplace else, 2,000 miles away with me traveling. That's not what he wanted for our marriage. So he did. He came out and he caddied for me. The first year we were engaged, we got married, our second year on tour, and he did take a year off. So he only caddied for me 17 out of my 18 years. And that was really me saying, okay, you're not really quite sure about this. You're not sure if you're happy doing this. You need to go away and go do something else and see if you like that. And if you come back, then it's your decision.
What did he do, if I can ask?
He came home, and a friend of ours was running a golf-specific exercise program here at a gym. And so Matt had got a job with him and was working here. And then I was traveling, and I'd come home, and I'd miss him so much. I would just be an emotional wreck. But I actually played really good golf. But it was really hard to be away.
Sure.
I had another caddy for me. His name was Tommy Jordan. We played really well. We had a lot of top tens. I started calling him Top 10 Tommy.
Nice.
But emotionally, it just wasn't what I wanted. And I was always most comfortable with Matt on my bag. He knew me so well. He knew what to say to me. We had been together for so long, and I was just most comfortable. I could say what was on my mind. And, we never took anything home. We left everything at the golf course.
Wow, how do you do that?
Well, I do say that he can caddy for me, but I cannot caddy for him. So it's the personalities, and I think the fact that I'm pretty even keel and I don't get mad on the golf course, and I recognize that I'm the one that hit the shot, not him. Most of our arguments on the golf course were early in our career. And he would be the first to say that it's because he said something stupid. He'd say, like, you have all that room to the left and you hit it to the right of the pin and you short-sided yourself. And I would look at him and I would
Captain
say,
Obvious.
Yeah, thank you. You're a regular Einstein. Yeah. I did that just to make you mad. So. Oh,
that's great.
So most of our fights, and probably in 18 years, we maybe had 5 arguments on the golf course where he would end up on one side of the fairway and I would end up on the other. But that was more at the beginning of our career when, we were still trying to find our way.
I'd say that's a pretty good percentage. That I don't know that I could do that with my spouse. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
So we have a lot of good memories on tour, and once we had kids, coming back to that, he would drop me at the golf course. The kids would be in the van at God knows what hour. We had to wake them up. Sometimes it'd be 4:35 in the morning. He would then take the kids to daycare. He'd come back to caddy for me. We'd get done with our round. He'd set me up on the range, watch me hit a few balls, go to daycare to get the kids, bring them back to the golf course to then get me. And then we would go home, and he would be bathing the kids, helping me feed the kids. We're doing laundry. So when I say that he is my right arm, he really literally was my right arm. He made it possible to continue having a successful career, having kids.
That's amazing. Yeah.
He's amazing. I'm very lucky.
Absolutely. So take us to the 2008 Corning Classic when you win in the playoff. What do you remember about that week? And was there something leading up to that week that you said, "Wow, my game is ready to have a chance to win"? Or I'm always curious to hear, like, when players win on tour, a lot of times you hear, like, I'll miss 2 cuts in a row and then I found something and it just happened. Is there anything that you remember, like, leading up to that week that led you to think that you were going to win or have a good chance to win?
I don't remember anything leading up to it. I honestly couldn't even tell you what my year was like before that. I do remember the night before I had put myself into position to win.
Before the last round?
The last round.
Okay.
So the night before the last round. And I remember getting ready, and we're trying to, pack diaper bags and get the kids ready. We have to pack up the van to leave. At that time, we were traveling in this big high-top excursion van. So, I'm trying to do all these mom things and get organized. And I do remember, right before going to bed, I sort of just I saw myself winning. I actually went through my head was my victory speech.
Wow.
Which is very bizarre.
Yeah.
I can't say that that's ever happened to me before, but I knew what I was going to say. Like, I have to thank these people. I'm going to do this. And I saw myself winning the tournament. So, I guess it starts with, you have to think you can win, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So, and that had never happened to me before. I had been in a position to win a tournament years earlier, but this was the first time where somewhere inside of me, I guess I felt like I could win this golf tournament, so much so that I planned my victory speech. And which is sort of seems very confident, right? I don't know how many shots. I might have been like 1 behind, 2 behind. I don't know. But I was in the mix.
Were you in the last group?
No, I was not in the last group. I was in the second to last group.
Okay.
I think. I don't even remember those details. I just know that I was in the mix.
Yeah.
And I didn't start off well. At Corning Country Club, there's like 2 par 5s that everybody can reach into. I can probably get right in front, if not hit it in 2. And I think I parred both those par 5s on the front side. And I sort of just was like kicking myself saying, what are you doing? You're letting this slip away from you. Like, you got to pull it together here. Let's focus. So the backside is more challenging, and typically players don't score as well on the backside. And I went on, I believe, to shoot 4 or 5 under on the backside.
Oh wow!
To get into this playoff.
Right, with Zhang Zhang, right?
With Zhang Zhang, who's won all these tournaments. She's this amazing golfer from Korea. Just solid, all around solid player. Had won some tournaments, and we go into a playoff. And I just remember being very calm. And, that's not necessarily normal. Most people would feel nervous, but I was very at peace and very calm when you talk about that feeling of being in the zone.
Right.
And, I hit my drive down the fairway, and I hit 7-iron into 18 up to 8 feet. And I make this putt. Because I'd been drilling, I knew this distance, just like against Jill.
Yeah. Is that what you were thinking about? You were just thinking about your practice?
I was thinking about my practice, and I'd go just like you do at home against the ladies, where I have this bet on the line that's been doubled, and it's going to be a double point blitz, and I got to make this putt or I'm going to lose a lot of money. And that's literally what I was thinking. And the ball goes in the hole, and I'm thinking I couldn't have written this any better.
Right.
I win in a playoff against this amazing player. My husband's on the bag, and my 2 kids are running out to the green to me.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
like, I can't write this any better. After 14 years on tour, I win my first event.
Do you remember your reaction? Did you have the big fist pump? Did you run and what exactly did you do right after that?
I dropped my putter. There's a picture of me that I have. I dropped my putter. I'm opening up my hands, and I'm looking up to the sky.
That's great.
Yeah. I'm still emotional talking about it,
Yeah.
My dad and Lud must have been looking down at me.
Yeah.
And Matt is there. So, my one victory, I'm still emotional about it all these years later. But it was so fulfilling after this person who wasn't supposed to make it as far as I did to win a golf tournament in a playoff against a great player. And it all came together in that moment, and I couldn't have scripted it any better.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's such a great story of hope and drive and perseverance and hard work that you've got to have that inside you, and now you can instill that into your players. I mean, that's just there's so much more. I know we were talking before about technical stuff and teaching, and if we can kind of transfer into your new career. So you retire at 40, right? That had to be kind of tough because you were playing pretty well when you left the tour, right?
I did. I was playing well. I still had status. It was getting harder. The golf courses were getting longer. Right. I think my last event I played at Kingsmill, and it was wet, and I was hitting a lot of 3-woods into greens. Yeah, I remember seeing your interview after that. You were just saying it was getting so long. It's getting so long, and I mean, I can get up and down out of a trash can, but it just seemed like, I was okay. I knew that I wouldn't have 18 birdie opportunities, but if I had 14, 13, if I could hit a fair number of greens, but it just got harder and harder. Plus, I'm getting older. I'm tired. I'm juggling 2 kids. At some point it's getting harder because my kids are in school. They're not traveling with us as much. Do I want somebody else raising my kids? So, right. Really Matt and I came to a decision that, I think it's time. We've had a great career, 18 years. It's time to go home and raise our family and invest in them. So, we felt really good about that decision. I would have to say that teaching is probably the last thing I thought I would ever do. In fact, I'm pretty sure I said I will never teach. Yeah, that's what John said. You told him. I said, did you have that aspiration? And you're like, no. Like that was one of my questions. Like, did you think you would ever teach golf? No. And I think one of the first lessons my kids taught me was never say never. Like, I am never going to do that as a mom. I won't be that mom. And then, of course, what happens? I end up doing that. Right. I give in or something. So I know now never to say never. You never know what's going to come back your way and what opportunities might present itself. In fact, when this teaching opportunity came along at Old Marsh Golf Club here in Palm Beach Gardens, I actually went to the interview to say no. I had been introduced to Tom Dyer, our director of golf, through Dana Bordner, who I played with on tour. Mm-hmm. Her husband knows Tom well, and he was looking for a female professional to come in. And Dana said, I think Leta would be great for that. And so she's emailing me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why are you doing this to me? I don't know that I'm ready for this. And so I'm always sort of thinking ahead. And I said, well, you know what? It'll be good to network. I'm going to go and I'm going to meet Tom, and I'm going to go turn down this job. Wow. So I go and I sit down with him, and he's talking, and, we're just talking to each other, getting to know each other. He's telling me what he's looking for, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this opportunity is never going to come along again. It's literally, I could walk to work. I live right outside the gates of Old Marsh. Okay. The hours are totally flexible. I don't work in the shop. I kind of come and go, and I set my own schedule. I said, this is never going to ever come my way again. And if I don't say yes, this is going to be somebody else's really great opportunity. So I guess I'll say yes. If I don't like it, I can quit. That was sort of my mindset going into teaching. I love it. And so this is my 4th season now. I'm still here. I get busier every year. I see my role as a really big cheerleader for mostly our ladies, but I do teach a few men. And then the juniors that I work with, that number has grown. So I see my calling as raising that next generation of golfers and little people. Yes. So that's sort of my niche. I feel like sometimes women get kind of pushed a little bit to the side. Sure. In that kind of in the country club atmosphere. So I see it as my calling to be there for them, to encourage them. I've started an all ladies golf newsletter that is specifically for women. It's all about all the ladies golf events that we have. I try and do a motivational piece or, cute sayings about, hard work and, pays off, be awesome, just affirmations.
Sure.
So, but I want something that's specific for them, that they know that I care and that, we're paying attention to them and that we want them to succeed and enjoy the experience at Old Marsh. So that's sort of where I see my calling and my position at the club.
Yeah, I love what you texted me prior. You said, my goal is to share my love of golf with others, especially women and children. You say women don't give themselves enough credit and are quick to discount their abilities. And you say, I try to teach people to celebrate every success, no matter how small. Golf, like life, is a journey.
Yeah.
That's just fantastic. I mean, you got so much to share, right? I mean, you're probably figuring that out every lesson that you give. It's not always about having the best technical information. You are a super coach because you've got so much of your experience and your positivity to share with others. I mean, that's such a gift.
Well, I do feel, if I can teach women to be kind to themselves. And for me, I think, how do you play a sport for so long? And, it took me 14 years to win. How do you keep going in those low points? At one point, I missed 10 cuts in a row. It's really celebrating the small successes. And I call it degrees of success. Maybe I didn't quite get that club in the right position, but I was closer and I could feel that I was closer. So I really teach them to say, if you do something amazing on the golf course, I'm like, celebrate that. I always say, write that in your mental journal, put that in the bank, so you can recall that. Don't be so quick to discount it as luck. I just got lucky. I'm not really any good. I hear so much of that and I'm like, no, celebrate that. And I probably, people are probably looking at me on the range because one of my students will hit something good and I'm like, yes, I'm really celebrating that. I'm like, that was awesome. And
that's infectious. That's great.
It is. And I want them to celebrate those good shots. I want them to celebrate themselves. And I love golf because it's an individual sport and you can just compare yourself to yourself, where you were, and see that journey. Take the small steps, and before you know it, you've taken a big step. And so just embrace, I always say, embrace the journey. Nobody was born a golf pro overnight. I was not born a golf pro. I whiffed the golf ball just like you did.
Right.
And I'm the first to share that I don't really think that I'm that athletic. I think it sort of hurt me that I didn't play other sports, but, I dedicated all my time to golf and eventually I learned how to play it. So I play with a lot of heart. I try and teach my students to play with heart and be kind to yourself and celebrate those small victories in life and in golf.
Absolutely.
So that's my mission.
No,
one day at a time.
It's inspiring. Yeah. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, you're going to do awesome. So, I mean, there's no reason, you're the type of person that could do well in anything they put their mind to. And I think that's such a lesson to be learned is, nothing's too big. Dream big and go for it. Right.
Absolutely. Who would have thought? I don't know that I ever would have guessed that I would have had the career that I did. But, if you just work hard and you take those small steps, anything is possible. Anything is possible. So just keep doing it and, have courage and work hard and be kind to yourself. And I always say I'm the best version of myself on the golf course. People are always a little taken back by that, but I'm actually the nicest to myself on the golf course. I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm a perfectionist by nature. I am. I mean, I want, if anybody who has ever seen my handwriting, they think a typewriter wrote it. I'm pretty meticulous. I am a perfectionist by nature, and that can be really hard on a golfer. And I have learned over the years, I guess I just developed it over time, but I am the best version of myself. If I miss a shot, I would say, that's okay, I can get it up and down from there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, or I'll turn to Matt and I would say, this is going to be an amazing par, or this is going to be an amazing birdie. And I never give up. It always bothered me that I would play with players who knew they were going to miss the cut and they would give up.
They would quit, yeah.
They would quit. And then Matt and I would say, we have 5 holes left. We know we're going to miss the cut. Let's see how many birdies we can make coming in, preparing for next week.
Wow.
So I never gave
good.
up. So I like myself on the golf course. Sometimes the golf course can bring out the worst in people. I say it brings out the crazy when you're inside the ropes, because I do know players who are not their best version inside the ropes, which is to their detriment and probably hurt their career. So, that's sort of my mission of, teaching people and teaching kids to, be that best version. And it'll carry, I think it spills over outside the ropes. I really do. I've learned to be more patient with myself outside the ropes, more patient with my family, more patient with other people, taking the lessons that I've learned in golf and sort of applying it in my life.
I mean, if you can develop a class under, with that premise, you're going to make a lot of money, because how our students, the way they talk to themselves, the self-talk is just brutal. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you can teach people to be their own best friend on the course, then you're going to have a long career in coaching.
Who else is going to be your best friend out
nobody,
there,
right?
Nobody. The guy next to you trying to, beat you? No, you have to be your own best friend, and, you have to live with yourself. And
Absolutely.
life's short. Be kind. You got to be kind to yourself. That's really the takeaway.
All right. So you ready for some rapid fire questions here?
Okay. I hope so. Go for it. We'll see. Hopefully I have some answers.
All right. What is your favorite word?
Love.
What's your least favorite word?
Ooh, hate.
What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, the sound of the golf ball going in the hole.
Oh, I like that. What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, right now it's my cute little dog that has this really high-pitched bark that goes through my house.
I love it.
Moment.
What profession other than your own, I guess your second profession now, would you like to attempt?
Oh, I really want to be a good dancer. I swear somewhere inside me there's an inner ballerina. My daughter's a dancer, and for sure, if I could pick like a couple other talents to have or skills, I would want to be able to dance and sing.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm really good in the shower singing, not so good a cappella, but I'd really like to learn to dance. I just swear there's an inner dancer in there somewhere.
What profession would you not like to do?
Oh, I don't know that there is one that I wouldn't want to do. I think wherever God puts me, that's where I'm going to be, and I'm going to be the very best I can be, whatever that is. If it's filing papers, if it's behind a computer, if it's sweeping the floor, I'm going to own it, and I'm going to be the best at it that I can be. So I don't know that there's something that I wouldn't do. There's nothing I wouldn't do.
What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
An unusual habit. I like to be organized. Sometimes it's unsettling for me to be organized. So sometimes before I can move forward, I have to clean.
Little OCD.
A little OCD. I have to clean, and things have to be straightened before I can get to some project that's waiting. Like if I have to write the ladies' newsletter, it's almost like it clutters my mind that it has to be organized before I can move forward.
I like it. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Good job, faithful servant. That you've done well, and you've made me proud.
I like that. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, it sounds like you don't ever get this way. But if there was a time that you were actually stressed out, what do you do? You have any tactics, any daily habits that you go to?
I need to breathe, and I do get anxious. I think it's sort of that perfectionist side of me that sometimes I do kind of get that anxiety. I have a very difficult time saying no, so sometimes I have too many projects that can kind of overwhelm me, and I want to do them all well. So sometimes I just have to breathe. And, sometimes from music, there is a song called Breathe, just breathe.
Yes.
And just that reminder of like, okay, the world is not going to fall apart if this does not get done. If the newsletter doesn't go out at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, it's not, the world isn't going to, come crumbling because of that. So breathing, doing a little yoga, reminding myself it's okay. So some positive self-talk is what I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you ever meditate? I guess yoga is that sort of a form of meditation. Or kind of calms you down a little bit.
Yeah, I wish meditation is an art for sure, and trying to quiet my brain long enough to meditate is really a challenge for me. But that would be a life goal. But as a mom, I always say I have mom brain because I have like 25 things going on in my head at the same time.
Right.
Because I have to have my kids' schedule, each of theirs, my husband's, mine. When I'm cooking for dinner, there's laundry in the dryer. So it's hard for me to meditate sometimes. Maybe when my kids are gone. And then I'm worried about less. I'll find that space.
It gets worse. Trust me.
Oh, okay.
Wait till they go to college, and it is not any better. All right, great. Sorry, last one. This is important. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, say metaphorically speaking, to get a message out to millions or billions of people, what would it say and why?
My billboard would have to say, be kind to yourself and celebrate the small things. I think if we do that, then we're going to be pretty successful and really be at peace with ourselves.
That's fantastic. You're so good. We have got to meet in person sometime. It's official.
Well, you're welcome to come to Old Marsh anytime. John and I would love to see you, and we'll go play golf.
Oh, you're such an inspiration and such a breath of fresh air. And congratulations on your career. And then if there's anything that I can do to help you with your new career, you've got the bat phone, you've got the Guru phone, so I'm happy to help in any way I can. Tell the listeners how they can reach out and say thank you to you on social media or websites, anything you can share to they can learn more about you.
Well, you can certainly learn more about me online. I don't really have a personal like a website like John does. But you can write to me through the LPGA and send messages that way. You can certainly reach out to me through Old Marsh. I am on Facebook, Leta Lindley. I use it more as a personal page, but maybe I'm going to have to start a new fan page or something for the golfers out there. And
definitely.
You know what? I think you just gave me a great idea. I think I need to do that where I can share, how I feel about golf and all those positive messages and share beyond Old Marsh and with other people and maybe, share my love of golf that way.
Absolutely. So you're
going to have to look for that page.
no Instagram or Twitter?
No, I am not on there. I feel like I've been the last holdout for a long time on Facebook. I was the last one to join, and that was more from when I was starting to have to manage charity pages and PTO pages. You have to have your own personal page. So for a long time, I just Facebook snooped through my husband's page.
Right.
And it really wasn't until the last, 5-6 years that I finally had a personal Facebook page. But now I think I'm going to have to start some professional pages. So that'll be my next mission. You've encouraged me.
Yeah, definitely Instagram. I would suggest at least getting Instagram because I think it would be a great platform for you to share your story and share your love for golf and people. So I'm going to hold you to that. You got to do it.
Okay, I'm going to do it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that information. So if you ever do a wrap up or something, you can share with your listeners what my new Instagram page is, or they can just start to search me. I would say, give me a week and a half and I'll get an Instagram page and they can just search up Leta Lindley and see what they find.
Perfect. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. And like I said, you're an inspiration, and keep up the great work. And I'm here if you need anything.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so nice to chat with you, and I look forward to meeting with you in person.
Absolutely. What's up, everyone? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you jump off. First, big thank you to Leta for coming on the show and sharing her story. I hope you were as inspired as I was, and look for big things from the teaching world from this young lady as she embarks on her new career. Thank you also to John Bierkin for connecting us. I really appreciate it. And you can follow and reach me on Twitter and let me know what you thought. Let me know your big takeaways from my conversation with Leta. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Golf Guru TV. Also, check out my website, golfgurutv.net, where you can find videos, articles, and more information on my teaching and coaching. And if you have a question or a comment that you want to email the show email is golfgurushow@gmail.com, or hit me up on the DM. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show were produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Zach Mullet, aka Cut Up Beats. And as always, I leave you with the infamous Jim Rohn: study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening.